What's up, Facebook? What's up, YouTube? It's your boy, JR Morales, broadcasting live from Panama City, Panama. And I have a pretty cool one for you today on the Attract, Teach, Monetize show. We're going to go over how to get your message across to your audience, right? But before we get to that, I want to invite you to join my free class at moralesclass.com. Just head on over to MORALES class.com. That's where I'm going to cover a lot of this stuff into a deeper dive. And I'm going to show you a lot more about how to get clients, how to get them the right way, how to attract them strategically, teach them the right things, and then monetize them without having to be pushy or salesy. And it's a very clever strategy. You're really going to enjoy it. Head on over to moralesclass.com. Now, back to our thing. Let me share my screen right here. All right. So as you guys can see here, right, I made this little presentation for you called How to Get Your Message Across to Your Audience. And this is especially for experts, consultants, and coaches. These are the people that I really feel I can help the most. And here's what's happening right now, guys. As we look at the way that things are shaping up in the industry, right, we know already that to be able to connect with our audiences, to be able to really create that bond and all these things that we're looking for, we know that content is the key to doing that. But then that in itself brings the next problem, because you can't rely on just one small piece of content. You can't just make one thing and that's going to work. That's not the way things work anymore. People, there's a lot more variety. There's a lot more ways to distribute content. You can create content on the fly. So there's all these ways of doing it. And what you really want to become is a prolific content creator, right? The key to the game is prolific content creation. You have to be able to create content. You have to be able to create lots of it, and you have to be able to do so strategically, right? However, this is the problem that most people face. They are teaching all over the place. What does that mean exactly? Well, if every day that I'm sitting here and I want to create, let's say, an episode of this show, or when I'm talking to any of my clients and I ask them about their business, you can sit down and every day have that challenge of like, oh, what am I going to talk about today? How am I going to be able to overcome, something today? Or what did I speak about yesterday? I can't speak about that anymore, and so on and so forth. And there's a flaw that happens in this argument, and I'll get into that in a little moment. But what I want you to notice is this, right? Most people teach all over the place. So one day they'll be teaching you something, let's say that it's an internet marketing thing. One day it'll be something about Facebook ads. The next day it'll be about email. The next day it'll be about webinars. So every day it's like a different thing. And all you're doing is really confusing your audience, right? You're not really leading them because you're all over the place yourself in your own teachings. That doesn't mean that the teaching is wrong. It's just not strategically built to do what we need to do, especially in today's age when you have to create that much content. And they actually struggle to come up with good content because they think they need it to be different. So every day it's like, I need to come up with a completely different topic altogether, right? I don't know what to talk about. I don't know how to really address it. I just know that I know a lot of stuff about it. So I'll sit down every day and come up with different things that I can talk about. But there is an inherent challenge in this. And I want you to understand that by having this, you're actually taking the least effective route to creating a powerful messaging strategy, right? So that leads to the idea of how do you actually create a powerful messaging strategy? Because, you want to be able to communicate with your audience. You want to be able to get that message across, and you want to be able to do it prolifically, yet you don't want to go through the issue of having to have, a million different things that you're talking about. So that leads me to introducing you to what I call the Core 3 philosophy. And the Core 3 philosophy are basically the main 3 chunks, right? The main 3 pillars of what your transformational process or your service or whatever it is that you're offering does for people, right? And I'll give you an example right now. I'll give you an example from our own system, right? As you guys know, I have this system called the ATM system, right? Which is Attract, Teach, Monetize, actually the name of this show. And it's actually what I'm covering in depth over at moralesclass.com. And you can go and check that out. It's a training right there, and you'll see what it's all about, and you can go on a deeper dive of this, right? So let's talk about the main 3 chunks for the ATM system, right? So the ATM system actually has 3 chunks, which no surprise are going to be Attract, Teach, and Monetize, right? So the first one, the first pillar is attracting the right prospects, right? The second pillar is teaching the right things. And the third pillar is monetizing without pressure. Now, every time I want to create content, I know my content is going to be one of these three things, okay? It's something around it, right? And I'll show you exactly how I further that in a minute, but it's something around one of these three things, right? The first one is attracting the right prospects. The second one is teaching the right things. And the third one is monetizing without pressure, okay? Here's a secret ingredient, okay? Here's a secret ingredient. And again, I'll show you all this and more in depth over at moralesclass.com. So the secret ingredient here is to use angles, right? And right now I'm going to give you some of my favorite angles. So let's go back and let's look at these things, right? Attracting, teaching, monetizing, right? So you know that those are the three core things. Now, what I want you to be able to do is to look at the three core things in your own business, the three core things in your own product or service that you're giving away right now, that you're doing, right? You get those three things. Once you get those three things, now you're going to add some angles to it, right? And I have a couple of angles here that I wrote down. So the first one is how to X without Y, right? So for example, if I grab this same topic that I'm talking about right now, which is how to get your message across to your audience, I could really talk about how to create prolific content without having to think of something different to talk about every day. So now you realize that I talked about the same thing. And why did I speak about prolific content? Because teaching is one of my core pillars. So if one of my pillars is teaching, right? And when I kind of flesh that out a little bit, let's say another level down, I'll get to prolific content creation, which is obviously needed in order for me to teach, right? You have to be able to create lots of content. So when you get to prolific content creation, right, this would be something that is relevant to my audience. It is something that is relevant to my offering. It is something where I'm teaching and I'm leading with value. And as you can see, by just making it of, how to prolifically create content without having to think of something different every day, this is actually the video that shows you that. Another angle is the old world versus the new world, right? For me, right now, if I started, let's say, for example, with you, and I'm talking to you about this same concept, right? The same thing of prolific content creation. If I just use the angle of like, listen, in the old days, you might be able to get away with doing one or two videos or one or two small things, and that's going to work with you, and so on and so forth. And that used to work, and you could just be the first guy there and people will believe you and so on and so forth. But now things have changed. Things have changed, and now things are harder than ever before. And this is why exactly you must do things the following way. And then I just roll into the same content that I just gave you. So there you have the same content, right? The prolific content stuff, but framed in two different angles, completely different angles, okay? Let's talk about this one, which is actually the one that I wrote to create this presentation for you guys, which was avoid this mistake. This is another angle, right? So let's say that I'm coming to the same prolific content creation thing, which is a part of my teaching thing, right? So it's about creating lots of content. That's what I need to teach you. And I come with the avoid this mistake. So what do? Well, the first thing I tell you is that here's a mistake that I want you to avoid at all costs when you're starting out with this stuff. And the mistake that I want you to avoid is that you think that you can get by with only a few pieces of content and that's going to be good. And that the first ones that you make out are going to be the best ones. Well, guess what? That's completely wrong, right? Actually, what you need to do is create as many pieces of content as you may possibly create without going through all the fuss and muss of creating, different topics every day and so on and so forth. So once you have one of them, and you can avoid the mistake of creating all this stuff by actually using this strategy, this content that I have in this same presentation. It would be the same solution, you see? It's the same thing. It's, the three core chunks, mix them with angles and so on. It's always the same solution. And well, that leads me to my point here, which today was to really show you how to get that message across and how to create a lot of content, how to be able to create content prolifically. I think it's one of the most important attributes that you can have today, especially when you have access to tools such as this one, which with Live, you can just basically create a small presentation such as the one I did. It took me 10 minutes to do. Now I'm recording myself. It takes me, we're almost at 10 minutes here. And in 20 minutes, I created an asset for my business. And I'll show you how to do that and lots more at moralesclass.com. That's MORALES class.com. Go ahead, check it out. I know you're going to like it. It's very, very valuable content. I'll show you what's working for us right now. Okay, moralesclass.com. Till next time, it's JR Morales signing out. I'll see you on the next one.